The definition of an Erev Vav is not if it's a Jew or a Goy. The definition of an Erev Vav is a certain type of war that they conduct that nobody else conducts. And what is that war? Normally the Yetzer Hara, when confronted with emes, tries to be kovish to emes. That's how the Yetzer Hara works. Don't believe in it, minus, apikosis. He attempts to put away the emes. But the Erev Vav works differently. The Erev Vav consents to the emes. It mamish consents to it. But it exaggerates it. And by exaggerating the emes, it destroys it. That's a different way. For example, the Erev Vav, the first Erev Vav with the Egyptians. And what did they say? They say, Eilo elekecha Yisrael, asher ha'elischa me'eretz Mitzrayim. In other words, they agreed. Moshe, the Banachim brought us out of Israel, and the yad of the Banachim was Moshe Rabbeinu. They agreed with that. They didn't. But since he died, because they saw a mareh that Moshe died on the hard. You know the medrash there. The Satan provided a mareh, like a stick nevuah, where Moshe appeared on a bed and he was dead. So Klal Yisrael suddenly got very, very disturbed. They saw Moshe Rabbeinu was dead. That's when the Erev came over and took over, and they said, yeah, Taka, the Banachim is true, he took us out, and Moshe Rabbeinu was, Vayaminu b'Hashem Moshe Avdoi. They believed in it. But the Erev said, look, the guy's dead. So therefore, we will have to take his koyach, which is the koyach of Mashiach ben Yosef, and we have to put it on an avodah zorah. That's what the Erev Vav is doing. Now, just like the Jews have an Erev Vav who admits to their emes, but exaggerates it, and by doing that takes over, the Goyim also have an Erev Vav. The Erev Vav of the Goyim are the liberals and progressives. Why? Because they've distorted the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, you have the opportunity of happiness. They've changed the girsa with one word: life, liberty. The government has to guarantee you life, liberty, and happiness. Not the pursuit of happiness and happiness, which means that the government is responsible to pay for you to have happiness. That's what so therefore they have created a state of entitlements. And entitlements will bankrupt America. So therefore the progressives, these liberals and so on, they can do it. Why do they do that? Because normally the mechama that a person have, it's a murder gate Sahara, it's a mechama against the Banachim. Why? Because up to now, every mechama based against the Banachim was simply, the Banachim says this, and I don't want to do it. The Banachim says that, and I don't believe in it. The Banachim says this, and I believe Yeshoid Mavadoi. I mean, they have all kinds of tinnitus. Why? You don't want to do what the Banachim says because you don't agree with him. He's not the only one around that can tell you what to do and so on. But the Erev Vav has created a new type of Yetzer Hara that never existed before. You know what that Yetzer Hara is? Why do I have to listen to what the Banachim tells me? What is morality? I already am a tzaddik. You know that a liberal thinks. The reason why the liberals are so fierce against Trump, because this is not a war based on the future of America. This is a war based on identity. The essence of a liberal or progressive, these people who see the government as giving entitlements and so on and so forth, they see it that we are already tzaddikim. I'm very good to my fellow man. I'm worried about him. I give an unemployment insurance, Social Security. I give all kinds of entitlements. So I'm a tzaddik ben adam chaveroi. And therefore, I have nothing to do with ben adam chamakom. In other words, they substitute ben adam chaveroi to make them a tzaddik, so that they don't have to go ben adam makom. So they fight God from the opposite end. In other words, we don't need your morality and what's right or wrong. We already have it. That's the mechama of an Erev Vav. That's the mechama. What you always see, that Erev Vav always concede to the emes, but they exaggerate it so that they can make themselves tzaddikim, and in that way they dismiss the Banachim. You see what I'm saying? Of course, that the liberals started after World War II by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, because the New Deal. That's what made them so big and so on. And The reason why they were so matzliach, because the Rebbeinu Shalom was very angry in America because of what it did in World War II. America and England and Germany were three co-conspirators to kill out the Jews of Europe. America is part of it because they did nothing to save the Jews, even though they knew in 1942 that the Jews were being killed en masse, and they did nothing about it. That's a whole Vortenthal. You know what I mean? But the reason why they're arguing against Trump, because they can't take it that he is destroying the Erev. And what is he taking away? He's not simply saying, I don't believe in your Shita, I don't agree with you. He's taking away their identity. The Erev needs to believe that they are tzaddikim, that they are special, they are moral, secular humanists, is what's called, and tzaddikim. And he's taking away that identity. That's why this is much worse than just an economic war or political war. He's robbing their argument against God, their argument to defy God. He's taking it away from them. And that's why they hate him. That's why it's such venom. But this has to be like this, because the Gula cannot come with such massive kitugim, without the Erev suddenly going to war. This is a war that you're seeing. People have called it a war. It's a civil war, but it's not military. But it's a civil war between the Erev and between Trump and those things that he wants to do. It's a battle of the Erev. I mean, they see him as dangerous, and they have to unite to destroy him by all means. That's why they're so hot. You know, everyone says they're crazy. There's like a special mental disease called getting rid of Trump. And people don't understand it. Why are they so, if they can find it, they're crazy. Now they have a possibility of impeaching him. And they said that in the newsrooms, they suddenly raised their voice in cheer, singing. Because now they thought they still think they can impeach him. So there was such a simcha. What's going on? Why such a simcha? Because it's not a war about politics. It's not a war about economy. It's nothing. It's a war about the identity of an Erev to dismiss God, and he doesn't let them. The Rebbeinu Shalom is very funny. I mean, if you understand what he's doing, it's impossible. Why was Trump picked as the president to undo the Erev and to bring the Gula from the Goyim, from Mitzad Esav? He doesn't bring the Gula from the Mashiach does that, but he's Mitzad Edom. He brings the Gula. Why? So you'd never believe it. Why does the Rebbeinu Shalom pick this shaliach? He doesn't need anyone to support him. He owes nothing to nobody. It means he owes nothing to special interests. He owes nothing to anyone. Nobody assisted in him becoming president. So therefore, he is free from any type of influence on the outside, number one. And number two, it's his egomania that the Rebbeinu Shalom wants. Because Trump wants to be the greatest president in American history. Whatever Trump touches, he has to be the greatest. So now he wants to be the greatest president in America. And how do you do that? But he knows the only way to be the greatest president is by restoring American exceptionalism, greatness. He knows he has to give that to the people. The only way he can be the greatest president is if he gives the people what they want. And that's what makes him so, and he's a businessman. He thinks like a businessman. And businessmen think in profit and loss. They don't think in terms of special interests and all these chazarai. When they want to run a business, they're very careful. So what Trump wants, he wants to be the greatest president in American history, right? And he's a billionaire, which means he could do whatever he wants. And the Rebbeinu Shalom says, that's what you need to bring America back to order. It's his very neurosis which makes him antagonistic to any person who's playing games. That's why he'll fire Comey, he'll fire this guy, that guy. He doesn't care, whatsoever. It doesn't bother him. He can do just like a billionaire. Whatever he does is good. You know what I mean? But the one thing about Trump is that what he wants is righteous. He wants to make America great. And the Rebbeinu Shalom says, so I will appoint a man who's a little not normal, but that not normal is exactly the drive that he will have to fix America. We don't know how the Rebbeinu Shalom moves when he brings the people, and that's why he chose Trump. But in the end, Trump will win. I don't know how, but he will the Rebbeinu Shalom will take care of this whole Erev. You're going to see a Mapola that you've never seen in your life. Just like what you're seeing now, you've never seen before. You've never seen so many people who are trying to destroy his presidency, openly. openly. There's not, like Shumba, who's a Jew, a schreckliche Jew, a Russia, his view is if Trump wants to bring a certain law, my goal is to oppose him. My goal is not to make laws for America, to make it good for America. My goal is to oppose Trump. That's why I exist. It's like very similar to Hitler. Hitler said, I exist, and he said this, I exist for one reason. And what's that? To annihilate Klal Yisrael. He said that. That's my tachlis. Because when they told him, the generals told him, how can you use the trains to ship Jews to concentration camps? We need the trains to ship soldiers and arms and so on to the front. He says, you're causing us to lose the war. That's what the generals, and including Ramo. And Hitler said to them, don't tell me what my tachlis is. My tachlis is to annihilate Klal Yisrael. And that's more important to me than even establishing a Third Reich. That's a tzaddik. That's somebody who knows what he has to do in Ruchnius, even he's a Russia, and he does it with tremendous mysterious nefesh. This is the 34th or 35th year of these Yortzait Shurim. I started in 1982, and I gave a shiur almost just about every year on the Ramchal's Yortzait. So, it's I get a mazel tov in that sense. 34 years, Kanain Hara, that we're doing this, and so on and so forth. We all know that the Rebbeinu Shem is a Merachem. He has Rachmanus. That's his third midah. The two midas are Chesed, Din, and Rachamim. These are the three midas that the Rebbeinu Shem governs the world, and everything which happens in the world is based on these three midas. It's really two midas. It's Chesed and Din, and the compromise of Chesed and Din is Rachamim. It's the third midah which comes out of the first two. I want to examine to what extent is the Rebbeinu Shem a Merachem. What does that mean when I say he's about Rachamim? How far does this go? You know what? Rachamim does not take away Chatoim from Yidden. It doesn't do that. You can't just whisk away Chatoim that Yidden do. It says, Eina Kodesh Baruch Hu Mavata, the Rebbeinu Shem is not moichel any type of chet or the slightest thing, because all those chatoim that people do are based on bechira, based on free will. And that which a person creates by free will registers in existence. You cannot just wipe it out. Free will implants the concept of the chet into existence itself, and it makes a mark. So the Rebbeinu Shem is not a mavata. The Rebbeinu Shem doesn't say, okay, I forgive you. That's the Christian belief. You know what I mean? And just because someone dies for your sins, which the Christians maintain, and so on, also is not moichel Klal Yisrael's sins. What does it do? It suspends the din. All Rachamim does is suspend the din. In other words, the din cannot be activated. Rachamim temporarily suspends the din, and then provides two other ways. So what Rachamim does is provide other methods to deal with chet. One, the first method that Rachamim deals with, well, first of all, Din says, if you do the mitzvah, you don't need Rachamim. You have Din. Din will give you Olam Haba. Rachamim provides two other possibilities. One, it provides a possibility of what? Tshuva. It is Rachamim which creates Tshuva. Din doesn't have anything to do with Tshuva. It doesn't even know what Tshuva means, Din. According to Din, and this is a very important concept, if you do a mitzvah, you have your koine existence. And if you do a chet, you're koine ibud. What is ibud? Ibud means annihilation. It doesn't mean death, because when you have death, you still have the existence of the neshama. Death is simply the separation of the guf and the neshama. That's all it is. But you're not annihilated. You exist in spiritual terms. But ibud is the annihilation of the totality of the self. In other words, the whole concept of self-awareness, that you know who you are, is obliterated. And what it does is, it reverses the symptom. That symptom which individuated you from the Ein Sof, now is reversed, and your individuation disappears, and suddenly you become part of the Ein Sof again, and that's it. That's what Din technically does, and so on and so forth. Rachamim provides two alternatives. One, if you do tshuva, you can undo the chet, and that's a nes, Because you say, well, the person did a chet. What do you mean? He's sorry he did the chet and now he undoes it? How can you undo that which is already created in existence? But it works as a nest, and I'm not going to go into how the mechanism of tshuva and on. What Rachamim also creates is the concept of Yisurin, suffering. Din doesn't know anything about pain. There's no such thing as pain in the world of Din. When Adam Rishon did the chet and so on, he was supposed to be annihilated. He had nothing to do with pain. Because pain doesn't make any sense. You do a chet, you unplug yourself from the Bnei Shalom, so therefore you should be annihilated. What does that mean? That you stay in existence, but you suffer pain. Pain is simply what is an extraneous thing, and so on. It has nothing to do with logic and reasoning. Pain, however, is mechaper. Yisun is mechaper in terms of this. And Din does other things. Rachamim does other things. It initiates the possibility of karbonos. You can get rid of chatoim by bringing karbonos, but we won't go into the mechanism how it does that. The question that I want to know is, we see that Chazal, when they talk about the Bnei Shalom, talk about these three midas. When it talks about what? It talks about chesed, that the Bnei Shalom created the world with chesed. What does that mean? That the Bnei Shalom does not require any conditions for chesed. And that the Chazal say in the Shimon Esrei, when it says, Hokel HaGodol HaGibur HaNoira, Hokel HaGodol refers to the Bnei Shalom as about chesed. What is chesed? Chesed means to create existence. That's all. To instill existence into something else. Tovi HaMeitiv, and so on. And Chazal call Bnei Shalom in that Bechina, Hokel HaGodol. In that sense, he's about chesed. Chazal then add on, not only is the Bnei Shalom about chesed, but he's about din. So therefore we have a gvura. And what does that mean? What do you call it? The gvura, Hokel HaGibor. It means the concept that something has the Bnei Shalom allowed. He allowed a being to be created that has the ability to oppose him. That is a nes. If you remember that the Bnei Shalom has absolute yichud, and there's nothing that can oppose him because nothing exists outside of him. The fact that you can have a person and a person does a chet is an impossibility. How can a person do a chet to oppose the Bnei Shalom and still survive? And that koyach that he gave to a person to still survive, even though he has a merida, he has a rebellion, is hagibor. He allowed the possibility of opposition. And Chazal finally called that Hagibor. And then the third thing Chazal say is Hanoira. So what is it called Rachamim? Hanoira. Now, Noira is an adjective. Hanoira means awesome. But it doesn't refer specifically to what Rachamim does. It just says the fact that the Bnei Shalom is a Merachim, he's awesome. But what is the awesomeness that the Bnei Shalom does? What does it mean that he's awesome? Okay? Now, I'm not going to answer that totally, what it means is awesome, because I would have to go into a different level of hashkafa, which is quite advanced. But I'm going to go into the concept of how awesome is the Bnei Shalom. When we say he's awesome because he's a merachim, he suspends din, how awesome is he in actuality? So the first example that I want to bring, which you don't realize it, it's none of you realize what's really going on. The Akedah Tzitzchak. Now, to all of you, the Akedah Tzitzchak is the 10th Nisoyin of Avraham Avinu. The Bnei Shalom gave Avraham 10 Nisoyonis, okay, and the last one he gave him was the Akedah Tzitzchak. And the Akedah Tzitzchak was a very great Nisoyin. How? What was the Nisoyin of the Akedah Tzitzchak? What really was so big about it? We all know that at the same time that Avraham Avinu was living, there was also people in Moloch. There was across the valley there was a tribe called Moloch, and they would sacrifice their children to their god Moloch. So they did it willingly also. They had Mesiras Nefesh, and they sacrificed a child or whatever it is every year and so on. So the question is, when the Bnei Shalom told Avraham that he had to sacrifice Yitzchak, what was the big godless? I understand it's very hard for someone to sacrifice children, for God. Okay, but you can't say it was unique to Avraham, because even the Goyim were doing that. So then, if we ask ourselves the question, so what was the greatness of the Akedah Tzitzchak, the binding of Isaac? That's really a question. What, that he was willing to kill his son because the Bnei Hashem said that? That's not it. Because there were people that were willing to do it without the Bnei Hashem telling him. So then the question is, what was the greatness of Avraham Avinu? So what we say is this. It wasn't the fact that he told him to kill his son. That was not the thing. Because you have to understand what was going on. At that time of Avraham Avinu, whether you realize it or not, and most people don't realize this, the Bnei Hashem had decided, this was in the year 2000, and the Bnei Hashem decided mankind had been terrible. First there was a Chet of Adam Rishon, bad news. And the Bnei Hashem was Meshana, the whole history, and made no longer would Olam Haba be acquired by man, one man, it would now be acquired by mankind. So the Bnei Hashem made from Adam Rishon children, and they would become the representatives of the Zolotzai. They would be the representatives who would get Olam Haba. What happened? There were 10 generations from Adam to Noach. Finally, by Noach, what happened? Mankind failed again. So the Bnei Hashem had to bring a mabul and destroy the world. It was a shrek lechazach, and so on and so forth. But the Bnei Hashem didn't destroy the world. He changed the format of the world. In other words, up till then, it was mankind was, well, they were very great. They were very powerful people. But he had a certain format, and then he said, I'm going to change the world. And I'm going to do something new. I'm going to make now mankind can survive, even though they do certain sins. I will provide an ability to machanam them to survive. There were 10 generations from Noach to Avram. And what happened at then? Well, at the end of 10 generations from Noach to Avram, it was a Dor HaFloga. Suddenly, under Nimrod, all the nations of the world decided to build a tower, Migdal Bavel, right? And they built a tower to fight against God. Now, you may say, what does that mean to build a tower to fight against God? That's ridiculous. You in? And the way it's normally understood is, what is that? That the Migdal Bavel. Well, what is that? I mean, you need to fight against God. With bows and arrows, you're going to fight against God? You know how deep space goes? And so on and so forth. Yeah, you can't find God in the universe. So how are you going to suddenly battle against him with some tower? But because you don't realize what the tower was a certain form of Avodah Zarah. That's not told to you. But they knew at that time that it was the greatest form of Avodah Zarah that had ever been displayed by mankind. That was the Migdal Bavel at that time and so on. Somehow they knew how to construct a tower that represented the highest form of Avodah Zarah. And they thought that, yeah, of course, the Bnei Hashem is outside, but in some spiritual way, the Migdal was able to interfere with the powers of Bnei Hashem because they believed in Yeshoid Melvadoi that the Bnei Hashem still had a weakness, that he still tolerated other existences. In other words, he was not the only one that existed. And they did that. What happened after that? And that's not said, that's not told to you. But what happened after that is a very powerful thing. The Bnei Hashem had a conversation with the Sultan, the Makatrig. And you know what the Makatrig said after the door of Haflaga? He said a very interesting thing. He said, look, how far can your Rachamim go? You were very nice, you saved Adam. Good. You were very nice, you saved the Doris until Noach and the flood. And you were very super nice in that you saved the people with the Dor HaFloga. But wie lang is dem Shir? I mean, how long could you do this? How far can the Midas Rachamim extend in this particular case? Right. So what he said, what the Sultan said to the Bnei Hashem, therefore, I demand that you ma'abid mankind. You have to annihilate mankind. That was the kitrug. You don't realize that because you realize from the Chumash, as you go to Noach, you go into Lech Lecha, you think, oh, now the Bnei Hashem decided to pick Avram. It's not that simple. You just can't decide to continue the same derech by picking a new man. Because the Sultan was demanding Ibud based on the history of mankind for 2,000 years. And the Sultan said, the Zulasa that you chose, mankind cannot be over you. They cannot rezoich the madrig of Yerushalayim that you want. Therefore, the Midas Hadin, the man's Ibud, Now, this is something that the Banisham acknowledges. He made the Midas Adin. So basically the Banisham says, yes, you're right. I should ma'abad all mankind. But I want to do something different. I want to change the format again. What do I want to do? I want to create a Zulasoi that simply doesn't simply have to do what I say in terms of earning Yir Shemayim. I want to create a Zulasoi that's guaranteed to go to Olam Haba. And that was Avram Avinu. Avram was the first one that he came over to Avram and said, the Banishim said to Avram, I'm changing everything. From now on, for the first 2,000 years, we have a Zulasai, we have a recipient of Olam Haba that can either make it or not. And the Midas Adin could disqualify them all. But I'm going to change it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new Zulasai that has a guarantee that he must survive. He must survive, in other words. How can he survive? So that's what the Banishim said. I'm going to give a Torah that has 613 mitzvahs. Now, I don't know if you realize what that means. Before, the world had a Torah also, but that Torah only composed of 7 mitzvahs. The 7 mitzvahs that Noach had was the Torah. That was the surah of the Torah at that time. Adam Rishon also had the Torah, but his Torah was in the form of 1 mitzvah. And in the form of, so the Banishim said to Avram, I'm going to change the surah of the Torah again, and this time I'm going to make Taryag mitzvahs. What Taryag mitzvahs? If mankind could not make it with 7 mitzvahs, how could they make it with 613? If you analyze the Taryag mitzvahs, you will be shocked. Because you will see that many of the mitzvahs in the Torah are not about things that you have to do in terms of Bein Adam Chaveiro or even Bein Adam Lamakom. You see, most of the Torah is about korbanos, taharas, kachim, moadim, so on. If you examine that, what is actually korbanos, the mitzvah of korbanos? The mitzvah of korbanos exists really in order to mechaper your sins. You know, it's not telling you thou shalt not steal, which is a moral act. So if you sin, then what do you call it? You get punished. But it says if you sin, you have to bring this korban. If you do this, you have to bring korban. You know, the Torah supplied within itself, it supplied the means for tshuva. The Torah made tshuva into a mitzvah itself, by actually determining the process. So you find that the Torah that we have, which is Taryag mitzvahs, has all the laws of kachim for the purpose of getting rid of sins. So Rachamim is built in. Rachamim is already built in. Taharas only applied to the Indian of Kachim, Kabbalas and so on. The halachas that have to do the Kohuna, the whole division of Klal Yisrael into Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael has to do with, because there's an Avodah. All the laws that have to do with the Beis Hamikdash has to do with because of the laws of Avodah. So you find a huge number of the mitzvahs, hundreds of mitzvahs that are designed for Kabbalas. And the whole purpose of Kabbalas is to mechaper avonis. So that's what the Banishim said to Avram. I'm going to give you a series of mitzvahs that these mitzvahs themselves will tell you how to do tshuva. The tshuva that you didn't have to do is incorporated into the Torah itself. The Torah of only 7 mitzvahs only had to do with lavim of what you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to kill, you're not supposed to curse God, and so on and so forth. It had nothing to do with kabbanas. It had nothing to do with Talmud V'Tara, all these considerations. It had nothing to do with Mu'adim. But when these mitzvahs were included into the Torah itself, suddenly the Torah expanded to a larger degree, so that, what was the purpose of it? Because Klal Yisrael, by keeping that Torah and so on and so forth, would be guaranteed. The Banishim supplied in the Torah not only mitzvahs, but what to do if you transgress those mitzvahs, and that itself is a mitzvah. That concept only existed with Taryag mitzvahs. The Torah of 7 mitzvahs had nothing like that. And the Torah of Adam Rishon had nothing like that. What that means is a very important thing. The concept of homeostasis. And I have to understand what the Banishim did to Klal Yisrael. And understand what Klal Yisrael was about. The Banishim said before the first 2,000 years, from Adam, Noach, and up to Nimrod and so on and so forth, mankind was faced with din. He had to do the mitzvahs. If he didn't do the mitzvahs, then you had din which says annihilate him. But I include Rachamim, so therefore there's a war between Rachamim and din. Rachamim says keep them alive, and Din says annihilate them. And basically I would give an extra strength to Rachamim, so Rachamim would be kovish to Din. So it's like a boxing match. The two boxers in the ring will be Rachamim and Din. And they would get together, and Din is really the strong of the two. But the Bnei Shalom gave an extra koyach from outside the system to overcome Din. So Rachamim was stronger than Din because the Bnei Shalom gave the koyach outside the system. But when the Bnei Shalom decided to change the Torah into 630 mitzvahs, it was no longer, the Bnei Shalom did not act from outside of the Torah. He acted from inside the Torah. In other words, it's like the human body. If you cut your hand, what happens? The body fixes itself. The body detects an opening in the skin. It immediately clots the blood so the blood doesn't go out. It immediately sends the immunological system to fight all the bacteria and the microbes that now come on the wound and start to attack the body. So the body has an automatic self-correcting system when it is suddenly experiences a disruption. But this is automatic. The body does this automatically. The Bnei Shalom said, you don't have to come from the outside. The body will do it automatically. So that's what he did to Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael has an automatic self-corrective mechanism, which is called homeostasis. The ability of a system to correct itself is called homeostasis, or establishing equilibrium. The Bnei Shalom made Klal Yisrael homeostatic, so that the Midas HaRacham doesn't have to come from the outside to fight the Midas HaDin. The Midas HaRacham was now in the Torah itself, and makes the guf of Klal Yisrael capable of healing himself. That's what the Bnei Shalom told Avram by B'Ser Ratzon. But the Bnei Shalom said to Avram the following: you think it's easy for me to do this? This is my plan. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. So why didn't he do it right away? Why didn't he make Matan Torah then? Why did he, if he told this was the Havtocha to Avram, that's what he wants to do, he wants to make a new Klal Yisrael and a new Torah to make it homeostatic, it means self-correcting by itself. Why didn't the Bnei Shalom do it at that time? You know what I mean? Why did he have to wait till Moshe Rabbeinu was born, till Mitzrayim? Why didn't he do it with Avram Avinu? Because you have to understand the concept of what an Ov is. An Ov is not simply a patriarch. It's not that, the reason why the Shlosh Ovos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are Ovos, is not because we were born from them, because they are our ancestors and patriarch. That's how most people think. My Zayda was Avram Avinu. And that's who he is. That's not an Ov, that's a grandfather, that's a patriarch. You know what I mean? Why is Avram considered an Ov, Yitzchak an Ov, and Yaakov an Ov? What does it mean to be an Ov? An Ov means, the Bnei Shalom said to Avram, for you to produce this Ummah that will be guaranteed Olam Haba through its self-corrective Torah, you have to restore the world, because the Satan wants to annihilate the Bria. After the Doha Floga, the Satan wants to annihilate the Bria. So if you want to save the Bria, and I promise you could save it, you have to repeat what I did at the beginning of creation. What did I do? You, Yitzchak and Yaakov, have to repeat and again acquire the midas of chesed, din, and rachamim. Avram had to replenish and reinforce the midah of chesed, so that the Bnei Shalom could restore the bria for chesed. Yitzchak had to restore the midah of din, and Yaakov had to restore the midah of rachamim or teferes. So the three Ovos, the reason why they're called Ovos, because they actually performed the necessary actions that enabled the Bnei Shalom to machadish the Bria, and then bring in a new Zulosoi that would have a Torah that would be self-corrective. Does anyone... This is a very different way that you think. You think that these are three, from them Klal Yisrael is born. We are descended from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We're not descended from that. Doesn't mean anything that we come from them because they were our Zaydis. We're descended from them because they re-summarized Chesed, Din, and Rachamim through the Avodah and through the Mitzvah Din, so that the Bnei Shalom can claim to Machadish the Bria again. And this time he would make a Zulosai, Klal Yisrael, who would correct all sins from within the system. That's what a Jew is. Most people, they don't realize what a Jew is. A Jew is a person who owns Olam Haba by self-correcting activities which the Torah itself devised. Now, So therefore, when the Rebbeinu Shem, now you can understand a whole different story what Akedi Yitzchak is. When the Rebbeinu Shem went on to Avram, he gave him 10 nisyonis. Because Avram had to re-summarize the Midas HaChesed to 10 nisyonis again. And now he said, I'm going to give you the biggest nisyon of all. And what was that? That was the Akedi Yitzchak. And what was that nisyon? That nisyon was where the Rebbeinu Shem said to him, you know something? I promise you that from you will be a new Messiah, a whole new generation. There will be a new Zulasai, a new recipient. But I'll tell you what, I have another idea. I want you to kill Yitzchak. So Avram was shocked. You gave me a whole, by the Brisbane of Psalm, you gave me a whole thing about a contract that you're going to establish for me a nation which will take over the Zulasai of mankind. And now you're telling me to kill him? If I kill Yitzchak, and the Rebbeinu Shem said, Kibi Yitzchak Yikor LeZorah. The Rebbeinu Shem promised them that the one who will start this Ummah, this new Ummah called Klal Yisrael, you know him, was Yitzchak. And suddenly the Rebbeinu Shem is telling him to kill Yitzchak. So the Rebbeinu Shem was contradicting himself. He was going against what he promised and totally contradicting himself. That was the Nisayon of Avram. So what do you do? So Avram did what Avram does, what a tzaddik does, which is astounding. He said simply, I don't understand what the Rebbeinu Shem is doing over here. It makes no sense. But you know something? Who can ask questions on the Rebbeinu Shem? He's beyond logic, beyond reasoning, beyond cause and effect. I cannot measure what he says, if it makes sense or not, and I can't do what he wants, if it makes sense. You know what I mean? I have to do whatever he wants, that makes sense. And I cannot question the mind of the greatest being in all existence. So Avram, what did he do? Vayashkem Avram b'boker. Avram gets up early in the morning to destroy the one promise that the Rebbeinu Shem gave him. That was the Nisayon of Avram. It wasn't that he killed his son, you know, like in Moloch. It was a whole thing. It was dealing with this contradiction of what the Rebbeinu Shem suddenly told him. And then he went and he was about to kill Yitzchak and so on, and the Rebbeinu Shem said, stop. I don't require you to kill him. The fact that you are willing to do that means what? You are kovish your logic and your reasoning for my being. And that's why the Rebbeinu Shem says, Ki ata yodati kirei Elokim ofta. I understand you don't do these mitzvahs because they're logical and because they make sense. You do these mitzvahs because I tell you to. That's the ultimate emunah in terms of this. So Avram established that as a thing. But there's a problem with this. There's a problem with this that I've never seen anyone ask this question, and I think it's a very valid question. It's a very critical question because it puts a whole different light. What the Rebbeinu Shem said to him, what the Sultan said to him, what? The Rebbeinu Shem told Avram to kill his own son. Now that is a midah of arzorius. That's cruelty. You want to give Avram an asoyin, so you kill Yitzchak. Yitzchak would die in a disease, or he would die for some reason. In other words, Yitzchak would die. That would be enough of the Nisayon. But the Rebbeinu Shem didn't do that. The Rebbeinu Shem said, I want you to kill your own son. In my book, that's arzorius. And therefore, you could have accomplished the same thing without having him kill his own son. The Rebbeinu Shem could have killed Yitzchak himself by a disease or whatever have you. But the mitzvah was to kill Yitzchak. How could the Rebbeinu Shem tell a father to kill his own son? We know the whole teva, the midah of a father, is to defend his son in all ways. Even if his son is a rasha, he will defend him. So how could the Rebbeinu Shem tell Avram, in any sense, a human being to go kill his own son? I maintain that this is a midah of arzorius. And how does the Rebbeinu Shem do that? I've never seen this question asked anywhere. And I think this is the real story of what happened over here. And I'd like to answer this question, but the answer is going to be somewhat shocking. When the Sultan came over to the Rebbeinu Shem and said, because of the Doha Flog and the Doha Mabul, you have to mankind must be destroyed. Saladin. So the Rebbeinu Shem said, so therefore, what else do you want? He said to the Sultan. And the Sultan said, not only does mankind have to be destroyed, but you have to kill him. Why? You're the Borei. Since you created the world, you have to destroy the world. So the Sultan therefore demanded, the Malach Hadin demanded from the Rebbeinu Shem two things: that the world is destroyed and that you destroy him. Because you're the Borei, you're the only one who could do that. So the Satan was saying, you have to kill your own children, mankind. The Zelasai that you made, the Makabal Olam Haba failed, and you have to annihilate them all and reverse symptom. And the Midas Hadin was right. What the Satan demanded from the Banishim was true. So the Banishim said to the Satan like this, you're right, I have to kill them all. But what happens if I could find someone down there, a human being, who if I tell him to kill his own son and actually activate that contradiction, he'll do it. He will do it because he has such a belief in me. Will you accept that as a tamura? Will you accept that as a substitute for me? So the Satan said, yes. If you can find a human being down there who will kill, you will say to kill, and it will destroy everything that person worked for. And if he's willing to do that without any problem, he will do that with total belief in you. I will consider that equal to you killing the Bria. And that's what the Akedah was. The Akedah wasn't even a purpose. The purpose of the Akedah was not even simply to see if Avraham could handle the contradiction between what the Banishim promised them and what he's willing to do. It was much deeper. The Banishim wanted to know if Avraham would substitute for him. So instead of him killing the Bria, instead of him killing mankind, which is what the Midas Hadin wanted, he wanted Avraham, and if Avraham was capable of doing that, it would pater the Banishim from that thing, and mankind can go on. And guess what? He got the right guy. So when Avinu did the Akedah, he allowed the Bria to go on existing. This is much greater than what you think. It wasn't Stam and Nesoyan, he's a tzaddik in Nesoyan. This was the greatest Nesoyan of all time, in a certain sense. Yes, because what did Avram gain by that? On Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah is the Midas Hadin, is Sholet. There's no Midas HaRachamim. Just like on Yom Kippur, there's only Midas HaRachamim, no Midas Hadin. On Rosh Hashanah is a day of Din, pure Din. Now, according to pure Din, the Banishim should annihilate the world. We can't stand in front of the Banishim and survive. So how is it possible that we can go through Rosh Hashanah every year and survive? How does it work? Because Avram is the only person in human history, Kamat, Avram could go into the Bezdin of Din. There are two Bezdins in Shemayim. One is the Bezdin of Din and one is the Bezdin of Rachamim. Avram could go into a Bezdin of Din where the Satan is Sholet, he is the district attorney Malach and capable of all that, and he said to him, I demand you, the Satan, the Malach Din, to perform Midas HaRachamim. What? Excuse me, mister. You know where you are? You've come into the basin of Din. We don't do this Rachamim stuff, this Rachamim stuff. We do Dinim. So how could you demand Din? Because Avram Avinu, because that's what I did. What I did when I was willing to sacrifice Yitzchak was to take the place of the Banishim, and I was willing to suspend the whole concept of logic and reasoning, Din. So therefore, because I was willing to do it, that was my avodah, my mitzvah, I demand Rachamim, and Avram does it. It says there, what was Satan?
The Satan does it. The Satan does it.
Yeah, so it says Korah Satan. The Satan gets his mavalvel. You know, right? What happens when Avram comes in and they blow the shofar? There's a billboard. What do you mean the Satan is mavalvel? He's a Malach Hadin. Because he cannot say no to Avram. He cannot go against what Avram did and to push out this Midas HaRachamim in the Midas Hadin. And that's how the world is saved from that time on. It's only because of the Akedah Yitzchak where Avram could vanquish the Midas Hadin and insist Mitzad Hadin on to have Rachamim. So even the Satan has to say Rachamim. And the world survives. So what do we see from this? We see a Meshunat Yitzchak. We see how far the Midas HaRachamim goes. That the Banishim went to the nth degree. When the world deserved to be destroyed, the Banishim was able to save the world in that sense because of the avodah of Avram Avinu. And the avodah of Yitzchak and the avodah of Yaakov. All three of them together prepared and made possible Chesed and Rachamim for a new Chiddush HaOlam. the appearance of the Jews in human history was a chiddush. Now we go on to the second one, Moshe Rabbeinu. How did he affect the Mitzvah Din? And he affected the Mitzvah Din in a spectacular way. What happened by Moshe Rabbeinu by the Chet of the Egel? We have this story, of course, as you all know, that as Moshe Rabbeinu was up on the mountain to receive the Torah, Klal Yisrael thought that he had died or whatever. The Erevav convinced Klal Yisrael that Moshe Rabbeinu was probably dead, and therefore the Erevav was able to entice Klal Yisrael to worship the golden calf. That's what they do. It says, Elo Lekachi Yisrael asher alischom me'eretz Mitzrayim. This is the God that the power of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is the power of Mashiach ben Yosef, is now invested on the Egel. So then it came clear that Klal Yisrael would over the Avodah Zorah. Now many people ask, how's that possible? I mean, Klal Yisrael was at the highest madrega of all. They were up to the madrega of Matan Torah, and they were the high madrega of all. How could they suddenly worship Avodah Zorah? That's a good question, but there's an answer to that which is very simple, really, and so on. It's not that how was Klal Yisrael able to be over the Avodah Zorah while they were so high. Because they were so high, that's what they had, this Nisayon. The Nisayon of the Chet of the Egel only comes to an Ummah, which is on the highest madrega possible. Why is that? Because fundamentally the Nisayon was like this. Moshe Rabbeinu was the Mashiach. So Klal Yisrael believed that Moshe Rabbeinu was the koyach of the Bnei Shalom that was sholet at that time, that could dominate at that time. But the Bnei Shalom wanted to know, or the Satan wanted to know. The Satan went over to the Bnei Shalom, and the Satan said the following. You're about to give Klal Yisrael the Torah. This was not the Torah that we have. This is not the Chamush Chumsh Torah we have. I don't know if you know that. The Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu brought down from the Har, which is called the Luchas Rishonis, was the light of Mashiach. It was the Nun Sharei Bina. If you would see that Torah and learn from that Torah, you would understand the connection of everything in your life. Everything and every step in your life, and you understand how everything is related to everything in the whole Bria. That's the kind of awe, because that is the awe of the Mashiach. When it says that the Mashiach comes, it says that at that time, Umola Oretz Deis Hashem, that the earth will be filled with the knowledge of God, like the waters cover the sea. It means that Torah at the 50th gate gives you information that you don't even have shaykhs to now. The Torah that you see now is the second luchas, not the first luchas. So when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the mountain, he was supposed to bring down the light of Mashiach itself and start the Gula then. There are psukim that say the Gula was supposed to start then, the Moshe Mashiach was supposed to start then, not now, thousands of years later. It was supposed to start then. But what happened? Well, our old friend the Satan came over to Bnei Shalom and said, wait a minute. You want to give these people the Gula and start what? A whole new thing? Wait a minute. They have to be zoicha to this. Well, won't they zoicha to it, Mitzrayim and so on? He said, yes. But the Satan said, but this is a Zman of Avodah. They have to do one more thing now. I am entitled to give them one more test. If they pass this test, then they can have the light of Mashiach. So the Bnei Shalom said, so what are you going to test them with? They've already seen everything, they've gone through everything. They already see my koyach in the Bria. What kind of Nesoyan to give them? So the Satan said like this, I'm going to give them the Nesoyan to choose what kind of Mashiach that they want. Do they want a Mashiach who they have to listen to? And that was Moshe Rabbeinu. Or they want a Mashiach that they made. And therefore, they direct what the Mashiach would say. And that's the Egel. The Egel was a product of them. They made the Egel as an Avodah Zorah, and it was therefore they can dictate to the Egel or to the Avodah Zorah what they want, what they don't want, and so on. The control of Klal Yisrael at that point with the Egel Azov was they would control the Mashiach, or if they let Moshe Rabbeinu be Mashiach and they believed in him, he would tell them what the Bnei Shalom wants. So, in other words, the final Nesoyan was simply, what kind of Mashiach do you want? Do you want to run the Mashiach, or do you want the Mashiach to run you? Is the Mashiach a representative of the Bnei Shalom who will tell you what your shleimus is? Or are you will determine what your shleimus is because of what you tell the Avodah Zorah and so on? That was a Nesoyan, which means that Nesoyan can only be given to a nation which was ready for the Mashiach. The Chet of the Egel wasn't simply a Chet, it was the last Chet that was possible before the Geula. That's the inyan of the Chet of the Egel. It wasn't an accident. It was a contrivance by the Sitra Achra to provide that Nisayan. And if Klal Yisrael had been Omer ben Nisayan, which they weren't, they would have been Zoichet Yemos Mashiach. You would be sitting around this table here listening to me. Seriously. You don't know what was going on there. But the Gemara says, the Madhu says that Klal Yisrael was Zoichet the Tchias HaMesim. They already annihilated death. They went back to the Madreg of Adam Rishon Koydem Achet. You don't know what you lost. So now Moshe Rabbeinu had a major problem. Now Moshe Rabbeinu comes to front of Baruch Hashem, and the Baruch Hashem says to him, Leich Reid, go down. Like Rashi says, Reid, go down from your Mashiachas. You are no longer the Mashiach. You were the Mashiach until now, until the Chet Egel. But now, you are no longer Mashiach. Now you stay at the 49th level. And Moshe Rabbeinu, till the day he died, was a 49er. It means he only was in Kabul 49 Madregas. Rabbi Akiva reached the 50th. But that's another story. But Moshe Rabbeinu had a very big problem because the Baruch Hashem said, what did he say to Baruch Hashem? He says, leave me be. I want to destroy Klal Yisrael. I'm going to annihilate the whole Dor Midbar, and I'll make a new nation from you. Now that wasn't something that you think that was that was a Yortzait min haklal, that the Baruch Hashem suddenly told something to Moshe Rabbeinu that he never said before. That's not true. Why? You don't know this, but Noach was the Mashiach ben Yosef in his time. And what did the Baruch Hashem do? He destroyed mankind and he made him the continuation of the mankind. So in other words, we see a mahalach. The Baruch Hashem's mahalach, whenever he destroys mankind, he takes the Mashiach of that time and he continues mankind from that person on. And Noach was the father of mankind because he was the Mashiach. He was supposed to have brought the Geula to the 10 doors between what? Between Adam Rishon and him. He was a Mashiach ben Yosef. But instead, he couldn't do it because they were all destroyed. So the Baruch Hashem said, so you now be the father of the new nation. And that's exactly what he told Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's what he told Avram. Because whether you know it or not, Avram was the Mashiach of his time. He was supposed, whether not a Doha Flogger, he would have been the Mashiach. So therefore, when the Baruch Hashem decided to do it with all of them, he went to Avram and said, you have to be the new continuation of mankind. So this is a pattern that the Baruch Hashem established. He always goes over to the Mashiach of his time and has him continue mankind. So when he said to Moshe Rabbeinu, you're the Mashiach of this door, so I'll make a new door from you. This was nothing new. But Moshe Rabbeinu was, he didn't like that plan. He didn't like that plan at all. And Moshe Rabbeinu had a problem. It's an amazing problem. It's a legal problem that no one has ever had. Because he knew what? What did Moshe Rabbeinu know? Moshe Rabbeinu knew that the principle of Yisrael, Afa pi shechata Yisraelu. What does Chazal tell us what a Jew is? A Jew is somebody, even though he sins, he cannot lose the Kedushas of a Yid. That the Kedusha of a Yid remains. That's the guarantee. That he will always keep the Kedusha of a Yid. So Moshe knew that. That's how Moshe knew Klal Yisrael would survive in Egypt. That even though Klal Yisrael would worship idols, they were over the Avodah Zarah, but they still can get around it because they had certain corrective devices what they can get over. And the corrective device that they had was what? The Korban Pesach. Because they did the Korban Pesach, they were the Machaper on the avoidance of worshiping Amun-Ra, the Egyptian god. So therefore they were the Machaper on that. So Moshe Rabbeinu knew that possibly we can get around it. All the doors before, they couldn't get around that. Why? Because the Midas HaRachama was external. It didn't have the power to save them. But he knew that Klal Yisrael was already in the Bechina because of the Shlosheh Ovos. That's why he said in the Schus of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, who already created a new Ummah that was guaranteed, maybe I could save them. But he didn't know if it was possible. Why? Why wasn't it possible? Why did Moshe Rabbeinu know? Because this was a whole different ball game. What was it? Because what was Klal Yisrael about to receive? They were about to receive the Yemosa Mashiach, the awe of Mashiach. That light has never come down to the world. Since Adam Rishon, no one has ever brought down the 50th gate, which is the light of Mashiach. So Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know what to do. He says, even though Klal Yisrael is a special nation and they're guaranteed, but how can I avoid the death penalty? Why? Because what can I do? I can't bring down the light of Mashiach into the tomb of that Klal Yisrael. Look, Klal Yisrael was on a high level, and on that high level, Klal Yisrael can get the 50th gate at that moment. But when they did the Egel, Klal Yisrael dropped down, right? So the question was, how can they get the 50th gate? The 50th gate can't drop down with them. It can't go into the Klippas. It can't go into the Golus of Klal Yisrael. So there was another match. So Moshe Rabbeinu understood why the Bnei Shem demanded to Memis to kill all of Klal Yisrael and make a new nation from him. Because Klal Yisrael at this level were in a Makam Tumah because of the Avodah Zorah of the Egel. So how can he save Klal Yisrael? That's a very interesting question that only a lawyer would ask. But Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know what to do. He didn't know if somehow he had an idea. You know what the idea was? Very simple. I can save Klal Yisrael. What? If I bring the all of Mashiach also to the Klippas. So the 200 same Madrega, and then Klal Yisrael can survive. But he didn't know if he can do that because that was never done before. The guarantee of Klal Yisrael, he didn't know if it extended, the Midas HaRachamim extended to that level where in order to save Klal Yisrael, he'd have to bring down the Nun Sharabina, the light of Mashiach, down into the Klippas with Klal Yisrael, into the Golus of Klal Yisrael. And then suddenly the Bnei Shem gave him a way out. The Bnei Shem said, Hanicheni. I mean, the Bnei Shem said, Hanicheni. He says, leave me be. Hanicheni. And so that I can destroy Klal Yisrael. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, why is the Bnei Shem saying, Hanichali, I should let him alone? I can't disturb the Bnei Shem. I can't oppose him. But the Bnei Shem was saying to him, you can oppose me. In other words, he was saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, let me be. Leave me alone so that I can destroy Klal Yisrael. Shema minei, you see from this that the Bnei Shem indicated that you have the right to oppose me on this. So he realized from this that he could. The Bnei Shem told him that he has a bechina, he has a level of rachamim that can tolerate even the nun sharabina, the light of the Mashiach to go into the klippas with Klal Yisrael. Astounding. That's what really took place in the Chet Regel. Although I don't think you see that, you don't know what you're seeing. But that's what Moshe accomplished. And that's what happened. But it was even more than that. Much more than that. Because the Bnei Shem then said, Solachti kidvaracha, I will forgive them like you said to me. What's this kidvaracha? Because you have to understand what the Bnei Shem said. You have asked me to be Mochel Klal Yisrael and allow them to survive. And you have asked me that in a way that in order to do that, I have to condemn the light of Mashiach of the 50th gate that the light of Mashiach has into the klippets to go what they are. And I'm going to do it kidvaracha, like you say. What does he mean like you say? Your tefillah will not only be now, from now on, from Matan Torah to the end of time, whenever the Jews go down and down and down, the light of Mashiach will go down, down, down. The light of the Mashiach, once you've started a motion of descent with the light of Mashiach, that descent motion will be with Klal Yisrael to the end of time. You've got to understand what this means. This was astounding that Moshe Rabbeinu was able to do this, that it was to the end of time that such a thing would be possible. Not only that, you find something else. You find when Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was on the mountain, then on the second, he said to the Bnei Shem, Hareni nos kvodacha. When he was up in the mountain, he said to the Bnei Shem, he saw there was an Eis Ratzon, and he said to the Bnei Shem, please, show me your kavod. Kavod means your essence. Is it possible for a human being to understand the nature of your infinity, the nature of what means Ein Sof? So the Bnei Shem says, no, a person can lo yirani adam v'choy, but, what did he answer him? He answered him an astounding thing. You have to, right after that question, the Bnei Shem said, I will show you what my midas are. And he said, my midas is, I will have mercy on that which I will have mercy. And I will also have compassion on he that I have compassion. Well, what is the Bnei Shem saying? I will have mercy on he will have mercy. What kind of statement is that? That's a statement without boundaries. That means I'll have mercy on anybody just because I feel like it. That's not a midah. A midah is I will have mercy if he does such a thing, if there are certain prerequisites. But the Bnei Shem was saying, "V'chanoisi as a I will have mercy on him who I will have mercy." That's a synthetic statement. That's redundant. What the Banishim was saying to him, you don't know how far you were zoicha with your legal argument, because you were able to force me, be moichel Klal Yisrael, the death penalty, and keep them alive by putting them of Mashiach into the Golus. You don't know what you did. You moved me to the nth degree of rachamim. So I can actually employ a midah of rachamim that doesn't even make sense to you. It looked to you like, I will have mercy because I want to have mercy. That's what Rashi says there. Which is astounding. It means you have pushed me to the nth degree of rachamim by your tefillah. That's how powerful it is. That's what he said, solachli kidvaracha. Your tefillah was so powerful that it will reach Klal Yisrael to the end of time. Now, he didn't say that that's what he's doing at that point, because at that point he brought the Yemoshe Mashiach, the light of Mashiach, down into the Klippas. So I don't think that there was any kind of manifestation of that rachamim. What does that mean, the rachamim look like? What does it look like when the Banishim has such a madrega of rachamim that has no shear and no boundary? Wait, it comes up. It does appear in human history in an astounding degree. That was the whole mice of the Chet of the Egel. I learned the Chet of the Egel totally different than anyone learns it. I don't think that, well, it's really understood. Because I think this is the only real way to learn it. So let's see. Now we know that the Banishim can go to the nth degree of rachamim. Where? When did he have to use that? So we finally come to the last door called Ikvas of the Mashiach. What exactly is Ikvas of Mashiach? What does that mean? Ikvas of Mashiach. The Banishim exhibits a mitzvah rachamim which is astounding. In fact, it's so astounding that only the Mashiach himself can actually propose it. Before creation, 2,000 years before creation, the Banishim had a conversation with Mashiach. And the Banishim said, in order for me to exhibit the Midas HaRachamim, I need someone to help me. I need someone to be sovel their Yisurin in a certain way, temporarily, so that I can look away from their Chet and I can exhibit the Midas HaRachamim. So he said to the Mashiach, are you willing to be that person? So the Mashiach said, "Semachti v'gilisi." I will be happy to be that person, to work for you, and so on and so forth, in terms of what you need. But then the Mashiach suddenly turned around and said something which the Banishim didn't ask him. The Mashiach said, "If I'm to save mankind, because I'm sovel, they're Yisurin, and that's the Ikat Tachlis of the Mashiach, I want to be able to save everybody, every Yid that comes in this world." No matter Kamat, what he does, Kamat, I want to be able to save them all. So first of all, why didn't the Banishim ask him to do that? Why did the Mashiach come up there? So the Banishim says, yes, okay, I'll give you the schus and so on. And what does that mean? Well, that means that I will make the last generation of mankind, called the Ikvas Mashiach, a simon of this issue. And I will grant you your wish. So, two signatures are on that document. The Banishim signature is on that document. I mean, the Mashiach signature is on the document where he agrees to do what the Banishim wants. And the Banishim signature is on that document because the Banishim agreed to do what the Mashiach wants. This was a dual arrangement, not a single arrangement. It was a request from the Mashiach that if you're going to use me to save mankind, I want to be used to save almost everybody in history. And the Banishim was maskim. Now, what does that mean? Well, first of all, the question is really what the Medrash does not ask. The question you have to ask is, why didn't the Banishim suggest that? Why did the Mashiach suggest that? Why did the Mashiach offer to save everybody and the Banishim didn't ask him to save everybody? It was exactly because of a certain specific item and so on. Because the Banishim cannot ask the Mashiach to save everybody. Do you know why? This is bad news. Because what happens is that if you're going to save everybody, that means you're going to go down to the lowest madrega of Klal Yisrael. It's a madrega where they're subhuman, where Klal Yisrael is not considered human, an Adam by Ruchnius. That's what it means. That the last door, which is this door, is so subhuman. Why? Because it means that most of Klal Yisrael will not even keep the Torah. 93% of Klal Yisrael doesn't even keep the Torah. They're all minim. They're all not minim. They're apikosim. They don't believe that Torah is Sinai. They have no shaykhs to keep in the Torah. 93% of Jews and so on. If Avraham Avinu came back to this generation and he looked at this generation, he says, Gewalt, this is what I sacrificed for. Look at Eden. Almost all Eden are fry. So he would say, how is it possible and so on. But that's not the point. That's the door that Mashiach prayed for. So the Mashiach prayed for this door because according to the Midas Hadin, the Gula should have come way before. It should have come way before because the Banishim should have brought Klal Yisrael, the Gula, for those who deserve it. And all those who are subhuman and so bad, and they don't even do mitzvahs against, they have no shaykhs to the Gula. But it's only because the Mashiach davened for them that even those people should be saved. That the Banishim said, okay, I agree. I will put them in the last door. All those people who should have been vanquished and removed from existence, I will even let them be zoicha to Ikvaz Mashiach. How? Because I will make the Jewish people unaccountable. The only reason why the Mashiach doesn't come is because Ketugim. There are accusations against them. And there's only two ways to remove Ketugim. One, if Kula Tzadikim. If every Yid is a Tzadik, there's no Ketug. Or there's only another way. If every Yid is a Tinik Shenishba, there's also no Ketugim. You cannot have Ketugim against Tzadikim, and you cannot have Ketugim against Tinik Shenishba. Both get around the Ketugim. So the Mashiach can come to those two doors. That's what Chazal say. Either the door is Kula Zakoin, Kula Chayovim. But only those two doors can bring a Mashiach, no other door. So the Baruch Hashem says, I'll maskim with you. I'll make the Ikavas Mashiach, a bunch of Jews that 93% have no shaykhs to Torah mitzvahs anymore. And I'll bring it to them because they're all Tinish Shinishba. They're not going to be fried Yidden because they want to be fried. They're going to be fried Yidden because their parents were fried. They never taught them anything, like in communist Russia. All the 6 million Jews that lived in communist Russia, they didn't even know they were Jewish. It's the Ki'ilu Chayavim. In other words, they will be, but they're not actually Chayav inside a din, they're Tinik Shenishba. But it looks like they're Chayav. I mean, the din is against them, but they would be Potal, Tinik Shenishba.
So what about the remaining 7%?
What?
The worst off.
No, the 7% are Justice Chayav.
Holding back.
I'm sorry. You're touching the very bit.
7% is just as high.
But for different reasons. I don't want to get in trouble over here. So I can tell you things about the 7%. That don't sound too good. But as it is. So therefore, that's what the whole thing is. That's the conversation with Mashiach and so on. And that's what happened. The reason why the Mashiach had to propose the idea and the Banishim didn't propose the idea, because the Banishim said to him, do you know what you're going to look like? In other words, if you are the Korban for Klal Yisrael and you have to reflect what they should look like, but instead it's going to look like, do you have any idea that if I save all Jews, including what? All these these are Jews who cannot make it on their own. They should have been nevad a long time ago. Do you realize if I save them also, do you realize what you're going to look like? Because you are the kapora for them all. You know what? You can barely stand up. And so on. But the Mashiach said, never mind. I take on the task. And that's what about. There's more to say on this story, but that's essentially what it is. And what it is and so on and so forth.
Why should they be nevad? From the earlier Gulgul?
No, the earlier Gulgul, they're all chayovim. It's in this Gulgul, the Tinik Shinishba. The Banishim brought them all back under a matzav. Yeah, they were all chayovim before. They all did telber chatoim, all kinds of stuff. So mitzad din they should then be nenas. But the Banishim brought them back on this door, so they're kula chayov, they're tinik shenishba, so they're not accountable and they don't prevent the Mashiach from coming, and they can still participate in the gula. So the Banishim said, fundamentally, the Banishim said he was maskim to have this thing too, and so on and so forth. Wait. So therefore, that's the Kates. Do you know what's going on that you don't know what the Kates is? the only man in human history who knew the Kates, and the only two men actually, was Yaakov Avinu and Daniel. They knew when the Mashiach would have to come. There's a certain time called the Kates, when the Mashiach must come at that time, and so on and so forth. There's only two people in history that knew that date, and that was Yaakov Avinu and Daniel. And I think possibly Yosef also, but that's another matter, and so on and so forth. The Kates and so on. When is the Kates? What does it mean that there's a Kates when the Mashiach has to come? Do you understand the concept of a Kates? There's a certain date in human history when the Mashiach must appear. It means it's already too late. He must come. Why? You understand the concept of what that means? What does that mean he has to appear? What does it mean? Because it really is this. We are working on a whole different concept, what the real concept is. You have to understand, Adam Arishan, when he was created, there was Adam Arishan, and he was the only one who had to occupy Olam Haba. Adam Arishan was Keneged Olam Haba. When the Rebbeinu Shalom changed mankind into Doris, so suddenly Olam Haba was split in many madregas to allow people to survive, so that even if you weren't a tzaddik, you can still be zoicha to Olam Haba by going down to a lower madrega. So Olam Haba became a mokum of madrega to allow mankind then to be zoicha. So if you didn't make it on one level, a higher level, you'd make it on a lower level, and a lower level, lower. So Olam Haba stretched. I use the word stretch. What the Rebbeinu Shalom did in his Midas HaRachamim is fundamentally he stretched Olam Haba to be able to accommodate almost every Yid, no matter what he did. In other words, if he did a very bad Chatoim, he would get a middle madrega. If he did terrible Chatoim, he would get a lower madrega. But he would stretch it to such a point when Olam Haba could be contained for every Yid. So what is the Kates? The Kates represents the last madrega of Olam Haba, that it cannot be stretched any further. That's what the Kates means. In other words, you've come to the end. Olam Haba cannot be stretched one more madrega, because if you stretch Olam Haba one more madrega, it's Ois Olam Haba. It doesn't have the simcha of Hasagat Yechudai. You cannot see the Yichud of the Rebbeinu Shalom on such a low madrega. So the Kates is the final point in which Olam Haba can maintain its integrity. That's what it means, the Kates. Now, I would like to present one more thing, which is very critical, that the Midas HaRachamim, which Moshe saw, where the Rebbeinu Shalom said, that my Rachamim is totally unlimited, applies to this jar. Because I don't believe we are on the door of Ikvas HaMashiach. The door of Ikvas HaMashiach was the door of Kol HaChayavim, of Tinik Shenishba. That was a subhuman generation, because a man who doesn't have to do any more mitzvahs, a man who knows nothing about the Torah, he's considered subhuman from a spiritual standpoint. But I feel, and I'll explain in a minute, that we are no longer in that generation, that the Rebbeinu Shalom has stretched Olam Haba to a whole different degree, and we are in what's called the Gvasa Mashiach. We are in a subhuman generation. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? I believe that the Rebbeinu Shalom has gone beyond his kavanah, what he told the Mashiach, what he agreed to Mashiach, and he's gone beyond that and exhibited a mitzvah rachamim, a certain level of rachmanis that's even beyond that. So therefore, I believe that the case was supposed to have already come, but the Rebbeinu Shalom has extended the zman of the case, and I present the following argument to prove that. What you find in this door is something that has never occurred in the history of Klal Yisrael. You find the sin of Mesirah. Never in Klal Yisrael have you found such exhaustive possibilities of Mesirah. And that Mesirah goes on all Yidden of this door Kamat. What do I mean by Mesirah? When Obama was president, and Obama heard the statement of Iran, where Iran said, we want to annihilate Klal Yisrael. That's what we want to do. And Obama enabled that. He enabled that, and he supported that, and wrote an agreement that will allow them to get away with that. Yes, that's what he did. Okay? So which means that Obama has a din of Yortzait, and so on. There's an attempt to Yortzait by giving Iran permission to build a nuclear weapon to annihilate Klal Yisrael. But what happened? Obama ran for a second term. And I realized something shreklach. any Jew who votes for Obama on the second term, knowing what's going on, is a Moisa. Because he is giving strength and enabling totally the annihilation of Klal Yisrael. It's Masira. There's no way to get around that. There's a Shaila of Masira. And the halacha is a Moisa eino chelek leilam haba. For the chait of Masira, there's no chelek leilam haba. In fact, Chazal say, V'lamalchinim, for those people who speak Lashon Hara, Altei Sikva, this is not about Lashon Hara, that's a Moisa. Klal Yisrael is referring to the Moisim in Klal Yisrael who support the Goyim when they want to kill Jews or want to rob Jews. This is V'lamalchinim, they say. So, therefore, anyone who supports that, now you found that on the second time that Obama was running, 70% of Jews or 65% of Jews voted for Obama again. Even though Romney clearly said that he would protect the Jews and he would dismiss this whole thing by Ram. But Obama, whose supporters, was voted into office again by 65-70% of Jews. These are liberal Jews. These are Jews who live in America, and everyone is wondering. Nobody understands this. I mean, even Trump said, I don't understand these Jews. How could they vote for a man who enables their annihilation? Nobody understands this. But technically, la halacha, these are Muslim. And the Muslim should all be annihilated. Eino chelik leilam haba refers to annihilation. Clearly that's ibud. So you find that wave of Klal Yisrael, and even from people, were guilty of that. And I won't go into that whole thing and so on and so forth.
Even though the Tinnik Shenishba.
What's that?
Even though the Tinnik.
No, but the from people are not Tinnik Shenishba. And even the liberals, no, they're not Tinnik Shenishba. They're not. Because they know they're Jews and they know look, it's Abein Adam L'Chavero is very hard to say as a Tinnik Shenishba because you experience it. You know what the pain is. So therefore what we find is this is a generation which is different than all other generations. Never in any generation have you had so many Yidden who are chayav, probably Masira. And that means the Nesoyan of this generation is a terrible Nesoyan that will only result in Ibud. So the question is, what did the Banishim do? And what I believe, this is not a light matter. Trust me. You're looking at the Banishim having to annihilate 2/3 of his people. That's what's in front of him. This is not a small matter. Wait. But I believe that the Midas HaRachamim was so far extended that the Banishim was able to save them. But how? If they had no chelik in Olam Haba, how was he able to extend it? Because I believe that fundamentally the whole quality of Olam Haba was changed to accommodate these people. For example, if Olam Haba is a visual experience, if Olam Haba is something, let's say you're watching in a movie screen, you're sitting in a movie screen and you're watching something in Olam Haba which is tremendous Kedusha, you can also watch in other ways. In other words, not only are you watching the movie, which is Olam Haba, visually, so you're seeing Olam Haba with an optical, but Olam Haba also appears in the projector. And when the projector is projecting the image on the screen, which is Olam Haba, it also is done electronically. A projector has electrical signals inside. So a movie appears in two forms. It appears in a visual form where a person is watching it and he's in Olam Haba, but it also appears in an electrical form. In other words, where a person is not watching the movie, but he's watching on an oscilloscope the electrical manifestations of what Olam Haba looks like. And I believe that's what the Banishim did to Olam Haba. He converted Olam Haba to a different quality so that it can even retain the guarantee of saving a Moisa. But that means that the Banishim had to go to the extreme level of Midas HaRachamim. Never in human history did he have to go to that level. Because never in human history did you have so many Yidden who were Moisim. They never had this. So therefore he had to go to that level of strength, and to save them he had to convert Olam Haba to a different level, with the quality of Olam Haba in a certain sense is electronic, where you're watching electrical signals instead of visual. I mean, this is a mashal I'm giving. But that's the only way that you could save a Moisa for Olam Haba, because the halach is a Moisa has no chelik in Olam Haba. So that's what it was when Rebbeinu Shalom was telling Moshe Rabbeinu, "V'chanoisi she'ochoin." You think that my midas harachamim stopped here, so I saved the Yidden from the Chet Egel. You say, okay, big deal. That was a great thing and so on, right? Because I was able to bring the light of Mashiach down to the Madrega, to the lowest Madrega possible. But I have yet one more thing to do to bring it down to an even lower Madrega, which has never been seen. Because of what you promised, that wherever Klal Yisrael goes, the koyach of Mashiach, the light of Mashiach will go with them. Even if Klal Yisrael comes to the Madrega, even if Klal Yisrael goes to the Madrega of being Moisum, I will still bring the light of Mashiach down to that level where it will accommodate them also.
This water, the concept of Haba now?
It's qualitatively different. The Banisham kept the concept of Nitzchias, but he changed the form. Instead of the form being visual, it became electronic. I mean, I'm using a mushal.
It's not that it's watered down.
It's not watered down, but it's different. You cannot compare watching the projector on an oscilloscope and you're watching the movie electronically on an oscilloscope. An oscilloscope is an instrument that records the electrical waves of an appliance, so that it records the waves in terms of if you ever look at an electrocardiogram or so on and so forth, and it's in digital waves. So this is the madrega of v'chanoisi she'ochoin v'richamti she'racham. So you see a murdik zach. What started with Avraham Avinu, that was able to get Rebbeinu Shalom, he was able to get him to save the world, to make a chiddushtika world with Avraham Avinu, with the Akedah Yitzchak, that he was able to take God and in a certain way allow him, enable him to avodah, to save the world in that sense, because he would substitute for the Rebbeinu Shalom. You see again in Moshe Rabbeinu that he was able to save Klal Yisrael because of a midas harachamim that would finally actually allow the awe of Geula, the Nun Sharei Bina, to go down to the Madrega. It's in the Klippas. And they'll finally to one Madrega beyond, which I think I feel happened. Because if I'm wrong and it hasn't happened, then you're looking at the possible annihilation of millions of Jews. And I'm not joking. Masira, that's a very specific din. The Banisham is not playing games. There's a machlokes in the Tanoim, if you rub them in a vata zoylam and so on and so forth. You see, there's a machlokes of Tanoim where there's some very high people, very great people. There's a child in the olam haba. Alachas kama v'kama. Surely, Yidden who are on the lowest level of where they don't even know mitzvahs are moisum in addition. Because you have to remember something which never existed before. Please. One thing exists now that never existed before. The Yidden have endured a Holocaust 70 years ago. That means a person can't say, I don't know what that means, a Holocaust. When Iran comes up and suddenly threatens the Jews with annihilation, you have something to think about. The Jews were once annihilated. Somebody came along and annihilated 6 million Jews. He wiped out Europe from the map. That's what annihilation means. And yet, if you're a Jew today and you will still be able to support this further annihilation of Jews, that's Masira, because you have a precedent to go on. You have a precedent to follow on what annihilation means. So you have to be extra careful of the destiny of Jewish people not to do this again. So what I want to say basically is that's the madrega of the Banisham in terms of midas harachamim. That the midas harachamim is so great that even those who have the halacha of ein lechelik baba, the Banisham can exhibit a madrega of rachamim which is not possible to believe and that we cannot relate to. But it does require the schusim of moedik tzadikim, Avram, Yitzchak Yaakov, that's an of Moshe Rabbeinu, and so on, Chazal, and all these people. That their avodah in some way allows all this to go on. Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef was the final, not the final, but one of the last major candidates to be Mashiach. He was a Mashiach. And therefore, he was Zoicha to, that's why we have the, he was Zoicha to the 50th gate. How do we know he had the 50th gate? Because it says Moshe Rabbeinu, when he saw him up in the future, he was jealous. Because he saw that Rabbi Akiva was able to do something that he couldn't do. So the Rebbeinu Shem said, you still zoicha to the halacha l'Moshe Sinai, but the point was, he saw that Rabbi Akiva had acquired an ore which he did not acquire, and he realized that ore was a thing. How did he get it? You remember that Gemara that said, Dalad nichtei separdas? For, what do you think pardas is? The Gemara doesn't explain that in the way, but pardas, that was the 50th gate. And why was it available? Because there's a tkufa called Yemot Mashiach, that in the year 4000, there's a Messiah that Klal Yisrael had, that in the year 4000, which is approximately that time of Rabbi Akiva, the Rebbeinu Shem would bring down the awe of Mashiach, even if Klal Yisrael, and waiting for the Gula. In other words, the actual Mashiach who we should have had was Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef, and his 24,000 students were the lieutenants of the Mashiach. Do you know why you keep the Avelis of those 24,000 students in Sfir Soimer? You know, there were occasions where more than 24,000 Jews died. The Holocaust. We don't keep an Avelis because of the Holocaust, but yet you keep an Avelis for the 24,000 students. Why? Do you know why?
Because they were the continuation of the Messiah consciousness.
No, they were not the continuation of Messiah because they died before the Messiah. He was left with 5 Talmidim. They were the continuation.
They would have been the continuation of the Messiah if not.
But we have a Messiah without them. We have from the 5 Talmidim. No. Do you know why you commemorate? You know why you mourn their loss? Because you're not mourning the loss of 24,000 bodies. These are the 24,000 lieutenants of the Mashiach. Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef was supposed to be the Mashiach, and they were supposed to be all the lieutenants under him that would be publicize the light of Mashiach in the whole world. He was supposed to bring the Geula. So what we got was the Torah, the second Luchas, which has the light of Mashiach in the second Luchas. No, it's in there, but it cannot be seen. It's invisible. It means the light of the Nun Sha'arei Bina was in the first Luchas, but it was inserted into the Torah that we have today. That's why it says Emetz me'eretz tismach, that the Nun Sha'arei Bina is down on the earth already. You see, Moshe Rabbeinu had to bring it down, but now it's already on the earth, but it's hidden. It's in mysterious hidden, and so on and so forth. So therefore, it is with us, but it's invisible. It's contained in the Torah that we have, the Chamish Chumcha Torah, but you cannot see it. It's Tumavolva. Ein Mugdim Umuchuba Torah. The Torah doesn't show you the order of it and so on and so forth. But you keep.
Go up to get it. It was down here. You should have gotten this from down here. People should have gone down to get the Nun, not up to Pardes.
But he probably did. I don't know how he got it. It says Dalad Nichtne Separdas.
Pardes is the Shemayim.
No. Dalad Nichtne Separdas was a certain methodology that he had, that he was able to take it from where it is. I don't know what that methodology was. I have no knowledge of it.
Gemara says that if you describe to the other Tanoim, when you get to this place, don't say water. When you get to that place,
Yeah, but it's not in the Shemayim. He had access to some location where it was. I don't know where it is.
The 80% that didn't make it in Mitzrayim, and they come back into Gulim many times and they fail and so forth. Is that part of this method of saving that 80% that maybe they're a people of this generation as well? Is that a method of saving, finally making them do that final tikkun?
Yes. But what generation they come out in, I don't know. But yeah, they have to come back, and they were saved. But they weren't saved from the Moshe Mashiach. They were saved from the original Mitzrayim. They still have to go through what it was in Mitzrayim.
The Rav explained that the Beit HaEgel was Klal Yisrael had an option whether they wanted to follow the Mashiach or they wanted to dictate. Could the Rav explain exactly more what it means that they wanted to dictate the terms of how Mashiach operated?
Avodah Zorah is not simply submitting to supernatural forces. It's sort of dominating it. Because you can, in Avodah Zorah, if you know anything about Avodah Zorah, it's based on astrology. And you could manipulate astrology in such a way, where in certain ways you control the power of Mashiach. The difference in Avodah Zorah, the whole purpose of Avodah Zorah is to give a human being mastery over the supernatural. So it's exactly the opposite of Torah. Whereas Avodah Zorah allows you mastery over what? Over astrological forces and so on. Torah means you have to submit to the Mashiach when Yosef. Torah is an aspect of submission to Mekabel Oil Malchus Shamayim. Avodah Zorah is the opposite, where you learn the halachas of the supernatural force. So in some ways you can manipulate it. That's a very big difference. And that was the Nesoyan of the Chet of the Egel. What kind of Mashiach does Klal Yisrael want? Do they want one that they dominate, or they don't want that they submit to? And they chose in the end an Avodah Zorah which they could dominate. Esav's head rolled into the Ma'orah. Esav's head. When he died, his head was cut off by Hushim, the son of Dun, because he contested the burial of Yaakov. And therefore, when he cut off his head, the head rolled into the Ma'aseh Machpelah. And the question is, what's Esav's head doing the Ma'aseh Machpelah? I mean, the Ma'aseh Machpelah is the burial place of the Ovis. Esav was not enough, right? He was not enough. What's his head doing the Ma'orah? Because the Banishim wanted his head to be in the Ma'orah, because in the end, Esav is said to do tshuva. Esav is said will do tshuva, so it's like the chazer. The chazer has split hoofs, but it doesn't chew its cud. But la'asad lavoy, it actually already happened already. They found a chazer which actually chews its cud in 1980s. They found a pig in Indonesia. But the only reason why they don't make it kosher and you can't have bacon and eggs, because they have no Masorah. I'm serious. They have no Masorah that you have to do that. But they actually found a pig that chews its cud and has split hooves, and it's from the pig family. But in any case, Esav does tshuva. And the reason why Esav does tshuva, because Esav becomes a part of the Gula. His head is in the Ma'orah because somehow the intellectual abilities of Esav is merged with the intellectual abilities of Klal Yisrael. And then the Torah goes up to the 50th gate. Because it says, Tferes biyad sor, Ad Mosai Uzucha Bashevi V'Tferes biyad sor, that the Tferes of the Torah, which is its Chokhmah, is biyad sor, in the hands of the enemy. And that's the Goyim, the Christians, the Goyim. Because they are allowed to obtain tremendous scientific wisdom so they can build something like a cell phone. I mean, the Chokhmah that goes involved is astounding. So they're able to use some level of the awe of the 50th gate. They have some permission to maneuver in it. Klal Yisrael has the emes, but they don't necessarily have the dark emes. But that's a whole different zone. But
Who else affected in history the Midas Harak? Besides the life of the He affected it, or he was about to bring it?
He did affect it.
He affected it?
Of course, he died. The 10 Asor Aruga Malchus.
Yes.
Why did the 10 martyrs die? Why the 10 martyrs? The Asor Aruga Malchus. What was their death about?
The fate of the
No.
The Kinnis, the Ramchal Kinnis says to be Mechapa Yerov Menavah.
The Torah says that the first 2,000 years of creation is called Tohu. It's called Tohu. The first 2,000 years of the Bria is called Tohu before Avram, because the Midas Hadin was greater than the Midas Rachamim and could annihilate the Bria, unless Rachamim opposed it. The second 2,000 years is called Torah, because the attempt of the Banisham was now to create a new Zulasai to attempt to bring the Yemoshe Mashiach. It should have stopped in the year 4000, in the year that the Tanoim were born, the years of the Tanoim. Klal Yisrael was supposed to finish their job. They were Mamlechus Kahanim, Am Segula. They were supposed to do the mitzvahs, and they were Mamlechus Kahanim. They were supposed to teach the nations of the world the Kedushas HaTorah. But because of Sinas Chinim and so on and so forth, and Rabbi Akiva was supposed to be their Mashiach. But because of the sin of Sinas Chinim, according to the Maisa of Kamsa Bar Kamsa, they lost the ability. So therefore, a new idea was planned. And the new idea is a shock. It's a shock what the idea is. For the first 4,000 years of human history, when Klal Yisrael did Chatoyim, Klal Yisrael went into a Golus. Klal Yisrael went into a Golus. But in the year 4000, when the Gula was supposed to happen, with Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef and his 24,000 students, and it didn't happen, the Banisham did not place Klal Yisrael in Golus. He placed the Geula into Golus. I know it's hard to understand. You know, all the things that were supposed to happen in the Geula was supposed to happen then, where the world would be makabel Torah, and the world would slowly return to the worship of God. But instead, what?
With the whole Christianity.
That's right. The Geula instead was done to Esav, and it was done to Christianity. Christianity became the new Am Yisrael according to the Klippas. In other words, Christianity would spread the thinking of the Torah. Christianity is a bastardized form of Judaism, and it contains many of the thoughts of Judaism and so on. And in order to enable that to happen, in order to allow the Geula itself to go into Golus, you had to have 10 tzaddikim who died. And the greatest of them all was Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef. It's the death of Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef that transferred the 50th gate into Christianity. The Christians, which is the Klippa today, have the 50th gate, and with that 50th gate in their form, they are able to understand the greatest marvels of science and physics with that ore, which is the 50th gate. They are using our messianic light to build their chokhmah, because the light is in their golus. It was enabled by the 10 Harugei Malchus. When they died, they made it possible for the golus to now contain the Geula, or the Mashiach, and the Or. This was never done in human history before. It was done 2,000 years ago. The actual Mashiach appeared and the light appeared 2,000 years ago. But it's now being delayed again because of the hate of Sinas Chinam and the whole thing and so on.
Mohammedanism has nothing.
What's that?
Mohammedanism.
No, that has to do with the Golus of Eretz Yisrael.
Why is those Muslim scientists nowadays are atheists and not Christians?
Why are they atheists and not
I'm saying
Christians?
if the chachma of science and all those types of stuff is, once they bring down the arts, then even atheists can get it, or they're supposed to be...
It's one thing to have chokhmah, it's another thing to be a mammon. You can have tremendous chokhmah, and they still have their shtusim, which they believe in evolution and all these things, because it's possible to see incredible things in the world. You can see the structure of a DNA molecule and see perfect design and still not be a mammon. Yeah, because this door is a subhuman generation, where you can have scientists who see the greatest wisdom that the B'nai Shem does and still don't believe in God.
There's what they call this cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance. No.
They lost the b'chidin.
Okay, I really am sorry. I have to apologize. I had intention to give another shir tonight, but I used up all the time. I wanted to explain the ultimate barometer. If you can give me 15 minutes, I can say the Thompsons of that share. I just want to tell you one concept, which none of you will believe. None of you will believe what I'm about to say now. I'm sorry about that. But nevertheless, I am just going to say something now which is a very important chiddush. Okay? We commemorate Tisha B'Av. Why? Because the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. That is absolutely untrue. There exists a Beit HaMikdash now which was not destroyed. It was not destroyed. It was transformed. But you don't recognize it anymore. But really, it exists now. It was, okay? What am I talking about? Where do you want to go? What am I talking about? I'm not kidding around. I don't joke about these matters. We have a Beis HaMikdash which exists now, which is a transformation. It's a mutation of the original Beis HaMikdash, but it exists, and it is still powerful.
Besides the basic of the Shomala?
Yeah. Besides that, that's nothing. We have one that exists now. Whoever told you the Beis HaMikdash is
Just don't tell me Christianity.
no.
Lost Fatima, you know.
It's the true tunnel tours.
I'm serious. I'm not joking around. You know what the Beis HaMikdash is? I'll tell you what it is now. Okay. The Beis HaMikdash today is the Koisel HaMaravi. Why do I say that? Why do I say that? No, not the Vatican. That's the Klippa. But there's a lot you don't know. The Koisel HaMaravi has the Shechina on it, right? The last residence of the Shechina is on the Koisel HaMaravi. And that's the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash, in essence, its main avodah was karbonos, but the actual brilliant construction of what we consider Beis HaMikdash is a makom where the Shechina is shoyra on it, and therefore it constitutes a doorway, a portal between heaven and earth. That's what a Beis HaMikdash really is, and that is satisfied by the Koisel HaMaravi. But you don't think it is, because you think the Beis HaMikdash was the original one, with the four chaimas, the Mizbeach and the Kiyah and so on, and the Mizbeach HaKotan. That's what you think a Beis HaMikdash is. It's not that. It's not a Beis HaMikdash. The actual those are simply instruments of avodah. But the Beis HaMikdash in its entirety, in its essence, is a makom that contains the Shechina, and the Shechina is shoyra on the Koisel HaMaravi. How do we know that? How do we know that? So I'll tell you an interesting thing. We know that because who built the Koisel HaMaravi? Does anyone know the history of this? The Koisel HaMaravi? The Koisel HaMaravi was not built by Shlomo at all. It was built by Herod. Because what happened was, Herod went over to one of the Tanoim. Herod killed many of the Tanoim. He killed them and so on. And he went over to one Tana, Baba ben Buta, and he said to the Tana, Baba ben Buta, how can I some way mechaper, or I'm sorry that I killed all the Tanaim. I don't know exactly what he was saying to Baba ben Buta, but he said, what can I do to lighten up the sin that I did? So Baba ben Buta said something to him. Well, what did the Baba ben Buta say? He said, you can miyafos, you can make the Beis HaMikdash which exists now, which was the Beis HaMikdash, the second Beis HaMikdash, and you can miyafos it, you can make it a much finer construction, you can beautify it, and so on. So that's what Herod did. So for 3 years, he worked on beautifying the temple, where he extended the mountain, and they built 4 walls around the mountain. These are called retaining walls because they hold the mountain in place. The western part of that wall is the Koisel HaMaravi. The Koisel HaMaravi is not part of the original Beis HaMikdash. It's an extension of the mountain that Herod built. But it was the only wall that remained. The Bnei Shalom let that wall remain, and the Shechina was shown on that. How do we know? Well, besides the fact that everyone goes over there to pray. But we know that because why? Because in the 3 years that Herod was building the walls around the Beis HaMikdash, it never rained in the daytime. That was a siman bracha from the Bnei Shalom that he was maskim with Herod to build that, to miyafos the Beis HaMikdash. And I always had a very big question about that. I didn't understand, if Hitler came over to you, and said to you, I feel bad about what I did to the Jews, How do I do tshuva for that? What would you do? You take out a gun and you blow his brains out. You don't want this guy to do tshuva. You want it to go to hell forever. There's no tshuva for that. Let's face it, There's no tshuva for killing 6 million Jews in ovens and crematoria. It's like too late for you, Your tshuva is nitzchias in sreifa of Gehenna. Okay? So how could Baba ben Buta tell Herod how to do tshuva when Herod killed, many Tanoim, Chachmei Yisrael. He killed out many of the Chachmei Yisrael. He wiped them all out. So what do you mean do tshuva? So how could Baba ben Buta tell him that? He said, you can. I'll tell you what to do. And he told him actually to put his filth. Herod was a mass murderer. You know what a mass murderer is? It's a murderer who's not satisfied with one guy, but he wants many people and so on. Herod was a mass murderer, and Baba ben Buta was telling the mass murderer, how he can do tshuva, and how by beautifying the temple. Like, how could he put his filthy hands on a Mokum Kodesh like this to beautify it? It never made sense to me, and it appeared to me like Baba ben Buta was, I hate to say it, was somewhat disturbed. I mean, I didn't think he was disturbed. He was a Tana Laki. You know, the Talaki was one of the, Bava Ben Buta was one of the Avsur Avuga Malchus. But I never understood that. It was insane. And then one day, I saw a picture of Herod's temple. And I was shocked. And then suddenly I realized what Bava Ben Buta was doing. Bava Ben Buta was not telling Herod how to do tshuva. He was doing something much more powerful. Because Bava Ben Buta realized that if Herod was allowed to kill all these Chachamim min hashamayim, that means that what's next? He realized that if he was allowed to kill all these Tanoim, right? What's next is the Beis HaMikdash. Herod was, Bava Ben Buta was many years before the Churban Beis HaMikdash. You know. But he realized if the Shemayim gave Rishus, if they gave permission to Herod to destroy the Tanoim, next step will be the destruction of the temple of the Beis HaMikdash. So he actually saw in advance that one day the second temple will be destroyed. So he had a brilliant idea. He's only a ton of things like this. His idea is like this. Wait a minute. The Bnei Shem maybe will not destroy the Beis HaMikdash if I let him destroy another part of the Beis HaMikdash. In other words, if I let Herod rebuild the Beis HaMikdash and beautify it. And how was it beautified? If you look at the temple of Herod and so on, and you see it, you see many of it is built like a Greek design. If you know anything about Greek design is called Yofi. I know if you've ever been in Greece, in Athens, and you look at the Parthenon, and you see the structure of the Parthenon, it's absolutely magnificent. The Greek structure, but the columns, the Greek columns and so on, it's what?
Acropolis.
The Acropolis and the Parthenon, it's magnificent, even though it's partially destroyed. But it's one of the most beautiful buildings on earth. You see, the Greeks had a knowledge of how to beautify something, and that they're called. Shem is called, the Chamiyofas is Mitzam Yofi. So what Herod is saying is like this: if I suggest to Herod to beautify the temple, I know what he's going to do. He's going to beautify it by using Greek architectural ideas, and fundamentally, Greek architectural ideas is Goyish. I mean, it's beautiful, but it means he's putting Goyish ideas on the temple, and therefore Herod, by doing that, will be putting the temple, the Beis HaMikdash, into Golis. So he thought, therefore, if I put the Beis HaMikdash in the Golis, if I let the Sultan take my hand, maybe he won't take the whole arm. What he said, let Herod, let the Klippas take part of the Beis HaMikdash, not to destroy it, but to take the part, to put it in the form of a Greek temple. And maybe the Sultan will be satisfied, I have it, it's a Goyish temple already, so I'm satisfied, it's in the Klippas. That was the cheshbon of Bava Ben Buta, which is brilliant, as a Tana.
That was destroyed.
What?
Ended up in
But that was destroyed anyway. Bava Ben Buta failed in doing that, but he did succeed in one thing. He succeeded in having the Koisel Ma'aravi be Mekuyim. It was not destroyed. And the Shina then after that rested on the Koisel Ma'aravi. So practically speaking, we have a Beis HaMikdash. We have a Mokum with the Shina Shira on it. We don't have a Mokum of Avodah, we have no Mokum for Karbonis anything, but we have a Mokum of the Shina and so on. But what kind of temple do we have? And I want you to think about this, so on and so forth. We have a temple called the Koisel Ma'aravi that's built by a mass murderer. Look at what the Bnei Shem was doing. The Bnei Shem was saying to Klal Yisrael, you're not zoicha to the Beis HaMikdash anymore, but I will let you have a remnant of it. I will let you have the Shechina, but it will be shura on that thing what? It will be shura on a wall that's built by a mass murderer. And so on. So your Beis HaMikdash is a mokum of gevaldik with sicha, and that's what you're zoicha to because of your sinus chinam. Yeah. You have to understand. You don't understand yet what it is. Most people think that the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed because of sinus chinam, specifically in the form of lashon hara. That's not true. It's not true at all. That alone wouldn't destroy a Beit HaMikdash. The Bnei Shem hears lashon hara all day long between brothers, between family members. So he's still a mishpacha. The Bnei Shem is still an over when it comes to that. That's no reason for the Bnei Shem to abandon Klal Yisrael. So why did the Bnei Shem destroy the second Beis HaMikdash? So for that, you have to look into the story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa. Because that story tells you why. What was the story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa? What happened? Somebody sent the wrong invitation to the wrong guy. He was his enemy. I don't know. Kamsa was the man who made the Suda, and he invited Bar Kamsa. Oh no, I'm sorry. A man was made a very big Suda. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a chassan or something like that. And he wanted to invite Kamsa. Instead, by accident, the other guy went and invited Bar Kamsa, who was his enemy. So he came over to Bar Kamsa and said, "What are you doing over here? You're my enemy." So the guy said, "Please don't throw me out. I'll be embarrassed in front of all the people. Excuse me. You'll be embarrassing all the people." So what did the fellow do? So he said, "Look, if you don't throw me out, I'll pay for half your wedding." I mean, think of what a wedding cost in those days. If it's anything like today, hey, what do you got? You're looking at $10,000, at least $15,000, $10,000 for half a wedding. Let's say in my same currency. So the guy offered him $10,000 just to let him sit there and not be embarrassed. And he said, "No, I don't want you. You're my enemy. Get out." And then he said, "Okay, I'll pay for your whole wedding. I'll give you something like $25,000 just to sit here and be able to go home." Obviously with the rich guy and so on. And Kamsa said, "No, I want you out of here." So I asked you the question, what did this guy do? I don't know what did Bar Kamsa do, who was his enemy, do to this guy that he was so angry that he was willing to give him a gift of $25,000 and not throw him out? I mean, I understand what that did. I mean, I can understand if he did certain things. Certain things I can understand. You know, I had to say this, that maybe this guy was a criminal and he raped his wife. I would imagine some tremendously criminal activity that this guy did against them, so he should be so angry, right? If a guy offers you a gift of $25,000 just to let him sit there for the evening and not be embarrassed, so you say, "Okay, I'll let you say, what's it to me?" But he hated this man with such venom that he refused that gift and he had to throw him out. And while he did that, all the chachamim that were sitting around there, what they do? But then no one said anything. They all saw what was going on, because I'm sure that this wedding this guy was making a big commotion in some of them. So they saw that, and they didn't say anything. They didn't intervene. That's what destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. The Bnei Shem said, "Look at the madrega of Klal Yisrael." We're not talking about Lashon Hara. It was the story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa is not about Lashon Hara. It's about Sinas Chinam on such a powerful madrega that it's not even normal. It's not human. That's what it was. I don't know if you realize what that story tells you. Chazal are pointing to the real hate of what happened, and they exhibit it in the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. If from that story, if you look in that story, you are amazed that the Bnei Shem put up with it for as long as he did, because this is a level of hatred that's almost beyond human.
What was the hatred? If they threw him out, or if the Chacham didn't say anything?
No, the hatred was that the guy who was making the wedding hated Bar Kamsa. We don't know. The Torah doesn't say why. The Gemara doesn't say why in Gittin. We don't know what he did.
Why is it important to say that the Chacham saw it and didn't say anything?
Well, because the Chachamim, in terms of leadership, should have intervened in such a machlokes where a Yid is going to be embarrassed on such a level. They should have saved the covet of an individual. So if you're a Chacham and you're a Tana or whatever you are, and you are Macham, what? All of it. The problem was the guy who made the wedding, who refused to let him stay. The problem was with Chachamim. The Bnei Shem could not find any schus. Because even if the guy said, "No, I want you to get out, I don't care what you want to give me," and the Chachamim, when it got him, says, "Look, calm down, let him stay here," they should have paskined it. They should have intervened. They were Chachamim, they were the leaders of the world, they were the leaders of the generation. Somebody had an achrayus to do something here, because you were looking at Busha Barabim, tremendous Busha Barabim, because everyone heard the machlokes. Everyone heard that he was willing to pay him $25,000 to keep his seat, and the other guy was saying, "No, get out." So the Bnei Shem said, if this is the level of sinner that Klal Yisrael has reached, I don't want to have anything to do with Klal Yisrael. And he pulled up the Beis Hamikdash and went with him. But what did he leave behind? He left behind the Koisel Ma'aravi. So at least he left behind something. No, he left behind a Koisel that was built by a mass murderer. Because he said to Klal Yisrael, this is what you deserve. This represents your madrega where you're holding. It's a very critical idea. And not only that, I'll tell you the next fact. When Titus went back to Rome and Vespasian died, he sold all the kalim that he took from the Beis HaMikdash. He sold them. And with all the money, must have made a huge amount of money from them. They were gold and silver and so on and so forth. He sold them. And with that money, he built another building. With the money that was from the Beis HaMikdash, that was the sale of all the items in the Beis HaMikdash, he then took that money and he built another building, Titus, in Rome. Who knows what that building was? Yes, the Colosseum. You know what the Colosseum is? Does anyone have any idea the Colosseum? The Colosseum was a building, it's still there today. The Colosseum, it was an arena of murder. It's when gladiators fought to the death. That gladiators fought, or people fought against lions and tigers. You know, they used to put in people in there who were enemies of the state, or Christians or something like that, or Jews, many Jews and so on. And they would fight against lions. The lions would then devour them in front of a whole public. And they were all clapping while the lion was having his brunch. They were all clapping.
It's reflective.
What?
It's reflective.
Of course. So the whole thing is murder. It was built by a murderer. They built the Colosseum, and the Colosseum was built, they say, in record time. It's amazing. If you see the building, the building is magnificent. How could you build this? I think they built it in 7 years. They built the whole Colosseum in Rome. It's still standing in Rome.
Maybe it has the right to stand like the case of Arabiya.
What's that? Yeah. Yeah. And the Koisel HaMaravi is our Beis HaMikdash, and the Colosseum is the Beis HaMikdash from the Goyim. From that, yeah. And they're both in the same thing. So anyone who thinks that
He sold the Caleb for the Colosseum.
yeah, the kalim that he took from the Beis HaMikdash to Rome, yeah. You know, in fact, in Rome, there's only 2 buildings left, 2 monuments left that are whole. All of them are fragmented and partially destroyed. 2 buildings. One is the Colosseum, and that's only partially destroyed, but it's pretty extant. And there's one more thing that's totally, the structure is totally built and complete. It hasn't been touched. Do you know what that structure is? What? No. Who? Yes, the Arch of Titus. That was the arch that he built, like in France at the Champs-Élysées. It's an arch that goes like this, and on the arch is the menorah. You could see the Romans carrying off the menorah and the kalim from the Beis HaMikdash, and it was built by Titus in commemoration of the destruction of the temple. And that's the only thing in Rome, in ancient Rome, called the Forum, that still remains intact. Why? Because the Baruch Shem is telling us, he's telling us, I'll tell you what I consider. You want to know what I think of you people? You want to know why I put you people 2,000 years into a gullus? You want to know what I'm doing here? So I'll tell you. You look at your Beis HaMikdash, what you have now, and you see what it is. And you'll instantly understand that sinas chinam and the way we treat each other has partial aspects that it's equivalent to murder. Because it's mavayis chaveru rabim. You know, we are not careful about the cover of Chaverim, or about the way they are, and so on and so forth. And that so infuriates the Baruch Shem, because again, the level of chinam, the level of sinas chinam that Klal Yisrael reflects was kamsa ba kamsa. Don't let anyone tell you that it's lashon hara. It's not. It's not lashon hara and chilas, unless they have to do with a profound level of what do you call it, of the sinas chinam. It's the mitzvah of kamsa ba kamsa, which illustrates where we are holding today. And that's very critical. That's the Beis HaMikdash we have to live with. So when you think that you have no Beis HaMikdash anymore, and you feel sorry about that because we're waiting for the Beis HaMikdash return, you don't know what you're talking about. You have a Beis HaMikdash, whether you like it or not. And that's the one that we keep until the Mashiach comes. Any questions?
How can Shekhinah be sure of such a thing? It makes no sense.
Answer your question. What does that indicate? Wait, he's asking a very question.
Clippers, it's in the Clippers.
He's asking,
Yes.
well, he's asking a question. He says, how could the Shekhinah be sure on such a thing, on such a coast like this and so on? You know what I mean? What's the answer to you? What? But better than that. What? Yes.
What do you say?
Louder. I just gave a shear on that today. What do you think I was talking about? That the Midas HaRachamim extends to such a madrega, you know what I mean? That he allows this to be his Beis HaMikdash, and it's not a kitvig against Klal Yisrael. In other words, simply put, the awe of Mashiach goes down to whatever level Klal Yisrael is at. And even though in Klal Yisrael is at the level of Roit V'tzicha or Sinas Chinam and simply behaving like animals, right? The Nun Sharei Bina will be in a makom that's equivalent to that. That's the level of the Gavaldic level. I say it another way, like Mr. Kling is saying, it's a level of Ava. That the Bonicham, but in order to, the Bonicham has such love for Klal Yisrael that he's willing to do it. But the Midas Hadin requires that there be schusim. You can't just get that level of Ava because you ask for it. Moshe Rabbeinu had to go through a whole battle with the Bonicham to figure this out, to mispalel, Zechol Avam Yitzchak and Yisrael. He had to go back and forth with the Bonicham to get the Bonicham to agree with that. There had to be the schutz, because he was willing to give up his chelet. He said, no, I don't want to be the Ov. I don't want to be an Ov of Klal Yisrael. I don't want to be the next Ov, you know. And so Avam, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are disqualified, and now I'm the next Ov, and I'll be an Ov of a new generation. I don't want that. You know what I mean? And the schutzim of Avraham Avinu, which was incredible with the Akedah Yitzchak. You have to earn these things. You can't just ask the Banishim to do it. These levels of Midas HaRachamim have to be earned. They cannot be just acquired like this and so on. But if you do the right thing and so on and so forth, the Banishim will be mezaka you with such a level of Midas HaRachamim where he will save Moisrim. You see it? And he will live with a Beis HaMikdash. He will put his Shechina on a Makom of Beis HaMikdash, which is it's not even Zoicha to be a bathroom. And we have to understand that, this Beis HaMikdash that we have. I want to understand, the Arabs build bathrooms against that. You know, the wall that we have, the Koisel in Eretz Yisrael, is an empty wall. But that part of the wall, the Israelis took down all the buildings that were in front of it. There was a lot of buildings in front of it, but they left all the buildings in front. So you have the rest of the wall that goes all the way to Shashchem. You have against that, you have Arab houses built against that. And the Arabs have bathrooms against that. So against our Beis HaMikdash, they build toilets. You understand? And the wall goes all the way down, you know, and we didn't take those Arab houses away. Those Arab houses still are against that wall, as a retaining wall. The back wall of their house is like that. And that's where they have their bedrooms, they have their toilets. That's the whole Arab community lives there. So we're not only dealing with the Beis HaMikdash, you see, which is a wall, and that's all that's left. It's a retaining wall for all the Arabs and for their bathrooms and everything else. And we share our Beis HaMikdash with the Shechina with their bathrooms. And that's what you do. That's what you're davening to. You're davening with the Shechina that rests on that part of the wall too, because it rested on the whole retaining wall. So if you want to understand, and I hate to depress you, if you want to understand where Klal Yisrael is, and how much they've pushed the Banisham to go to such a level of Rachamim, where right now what represents them is a Beis HaMikdash, which is what we have now, which is built by a mass murderer, which has sponsored the Colosseum, which is an arena of death, and which is now a retaining wall for many Arab houses and bathrooms. That's our Beis HaMikdash.
We're going to have to come for group therapy.
I think you need more than group therapy to work this.